why are y'all not on the same page? Why is everybody?
That's
why
a good
is everybody
question.
not on the same page? That's what.
Why are all
makes
the Muslims not on the same page, right?
So that's what is confusing to me, is that everything is different. Like even with party planning, I'm gonna give you an example. I had one couple who, when they, and this is the first time I've ever seen this, they weren't allowed to be without a chaperone before they got married. So the only reason why they sat down with me together is because I was there.
You was a chaperone.
I was the chaperone.
That's good.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
I've had one time they had for kids, I guess after the birth of the baby, they made lamb.
Yeah. Yeah, we do that too.
But I've never seen that before. Like, it's not, to me, it's not, you don't see that.
It's not normal?
It's not normal.
Do you think it's a bad thing?
No, I don't think it's a bad thing.
It's a good thing?
But why aren't everybody on the same
Do you like
page?
lamb?
I like lamb, yeah.
So you just had a baby. We should kill a lamb
But I'm not.
and cook it.
Well, we kill chickens. But why? But that's always like a big question with me. Why isn't everyone on the same page?
Why aren't all the Muslims the same?
Right. Like, what are you?
Or what are you?
Huh?
What are
am
you?
I?
Yeah.
I'm not practicing right now. But
Practicing what?
I was brought up Jehovah's Witness.
Okay. You're all right in the Jehovah's Witness. So you can still consider yourself a Jehovah's Witness?
Yes.
Okay. But do you do everything that
I'm not practicing.
you're not practicing?
Right.
Okay.
But that's the only
So
religion
did you?
that I know.
Okay. Now, in your community, in the Jehovah's Witness community, what do you guys have? Like preachers? You have a pastor? What do you call them?
They're called brothers.
The brothers.
Yes.
All right. So do they go to school to learn their religion?
They have assemblies.
They have
Yes.
assemblies. So you have like a top brother, right?
Right.
Somebody who's in charge of all the other brothers.
Circuit overseer.
Circuit
is what it's
overseer.
called.
So
Right.
the overseer, so he's the one, like you guys have an actual system that you have to follow, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, did you have to learn that?
No.
Because you're not guiding anyone, right?
Right.
And you're not teaching anyone, right?
Right.
Okay. So it's the same thing in Islam. Here's the difference, right? In Islam, we have a system, right? So, and it's not just the imams. The imam is like our pastor, right? But the imam, he could be a scholar, or he could also be somebody who's just an imam. He's just a leader and not a scholar. The problem is in our community, we have a lot of people who think they're scholars. They think they're like the overseer, the master overseer, like in your community.
Right.
They think they are, but they aren't. And
Well,
so
why do they think that? Because I'm not going to come to my hall and say I'm,
well, I mean, here's the thing: it's called democracy. Everybody gets to do what they want. When there's see in your community, because you have an actual like where's your head kingdom hall?
like
at?
it's a chain of.
It's a chain of command.
Right.
We don't have that anymore. Well, we're supposed to, but people's all over the place. So what happens? Somebody like you're just a regular parishioner, right? You just be sitting on in the pews, right?
Right.
In our community, we have a lot of people who should be just sitting in the pews. They're sitting in the pews trying to tell people what the rules are, what the laws are, instead of following that chain of command.
Right.
Because we don't have a head that we're supposed to. So all the Muslims in the whole world, I'm hoping and praying that we aren't held accountable for not having a head leader, because we're supposed to appoint somebody over us. For I'm not just talking about America. I'm talking about for the whole world. There should be what's called a Khalifa, who's the leader.
Is that what Elijah Muhammad was, kind of?
All right, he's not. Well, I don't want to say. Well, all right, it's going to sound harsh. He wasn't Muslim. So the Nation of Islam.
You said he wasn't?
He wasn't. He was. They thought they were Muslim, put like that. And so, and I don't want to offend nobody by saying that, but according to traditional Islam, what they practice is not what I practice. It's not Islam. But yes. So
Now, see, you see what you just said. It's not what they practice.
No.
It's what
All
I
right.
practice.
Put
So
like
you
this.
see how you're still not
No.
on the same
All right.
page.
You're right. You're right. Because
Why?
listen, because here's what happened, right? In order to be considered a Muslim, right, you have to believe that there's one God. He doesn't have sons or daughters. He's the creator, and everything besides him is a creation of God, right? And we believe in all of his messengers, all of his prophets, and we believe that the Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet of Islam. I mean, not just of Islam, of everything, right? He's the last prophet. There's no more prophets after him, no more messengers. You may have imams and people who, who follow his tradition, but there's no one else who's going to come with another revelation from God. Only the Prophet Muhammad. He's the last one. We believe in all the ones that came before him. So Jesus, Solomon, Noah, Abraham, Adam, Lot, every single prophet that came before the Prophet Muhammad we believe in, but there will be none after him. So if somebody comes and they say that there's another prophet or a messenger after the Prophet Muhammad, you're not a Muslim. So even if you say you're a Muslim, you're not a Muslim. So it's what's called a misnomer. You know what I mean? So that's like you going around saying that you're a white woman. That you're not a white woman.
Right.
You know what I mean? So here's the thing. Elijah Muhammad, great leader for black people. He organized things. He mobilized black people. He got them, together and pushed, an agenda for black people that was great. But he did not teach what is proper Islam. That makes sense? So what he taught was not Islam. Because he said that he was the messenger of God. He said he was a prophet to the black people. So that's why we don't consider him or people who believe that to be Muslims. You understand? So
they consider themselves as
they consider themselves Muslim. We don't. Here's the thing though.
Who's
Muslims. So the Muslims who believe in everything that the Prophet Muhammad taught, we don't believe that I don't want to say he's not, we don't believe he's a prophet. I would love for him to have been a Muslim and people who follow him to be Muslim. But if you believe that he's a messenger of a God, then, just like in your religion, right? You have tenets in your religion, things that you have to believe in order to make you a Jehovah's Witness, right? And if you believe things that deviate from that, then that means you're not a Jehovah's Witness, right? It's the same thing. So, for instance, you guys don't believe that Jesus is God either, right? All right, we don't believe Jesus is God. But if you were to believe that Jesus himself was God, you would not be a Jehovah's Witness, right?
Right.
So the point I'm making is in that community, even though they say they're Muslim, we don't consider them Muslim because they deviate from the core beliefs of Islam. The same way, I'm sure Baptist Christians, y'all would not consider like real Christians, right? Because they deviate from what your teachings teach.
Right.
It's the same thing. You understand?
Right.
Now, but we don't say that to separate. It's not in order to
But
separate.
it sounds like, won't that cause a division?
What does that cause a division in?
Within your own Muslim community when you're saying these aren't accepted. So
Well, no, we're not saying that they're not accepted. We're just saying according to the core beliefs of this religion, the tenets, everything that makes a person have acceptable belief. If they violate one of those, you don't have acceptable belief anymore. It's the same. So the same division that you think it causes with us, it causes with you too. So in the land of Christians, there's division, right?
As Jehovah's Witness Christians?
No, not just. Here's my point. Just Christians in general. You have Jehovah's Witnesses. You have Baptists. It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Got you.
You know what I mean? But not. I would like for it to all be the same, but it is not. And it could be if people learn.
Right.
The problem is people don't learn. The people who sit in the pews or sit on the carpet for us, they're not responsible they're not held responsible for the same knowledge that the person who's teaching us has to gain. So you're just supposed to learn what's called your fardo ain, which means your personal obligatory knowledge, the things that affect you. So what's permissible to believe, what's impermissible to believe, how to pray, how to marry, how to divorce, how to bury your dead, how to eat correctly. Those are things that you're responsible to learn for yourself. But if you don't learn them from someone who learned them for himself from somebody qualified, then you're just gonna be learning a bunch of stuff that's like hearsay. And that's what happens. So that's the problem. That's one of the reasons why, like, I talk about religion and stuff on my videos, is because I didn't know no better either until somebody sat me down. Somebody who knew correctly sat me down and taught me. So I have real teachers who actually taught me the religion correctly. But I went for a good 6-7 years not knowing what I was doing.
Right.
I was the same
And
way.
see, that's the problem. Like, how do they keep their knowledge fresh? Where does this information like keep coming from? Like,
Well, the information was preserved from the Prophet Muhammad, from the time that he existed to now. So most of the Muslims around the world, we all believe the same thing. Most of us. So, but there are groups that have deviated from the core beliefs of Islam. And so, like, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's not a problem. It is a problem, but it's not how you would think. It's not always this thing that causes a bunch of big wars and, you know. But on our level, in the black community, it looks like a big mess. And I'm sure it looks like a mess from your point of view.
I just have a lot of questions from it because I see different.
Yeah, because you're not Muslim.
But I see it doesn't matter because it seems like they're still not on the same page. I'm seeing everybody.
Because we're not on the same page.
Yeah.
The reason why, though, is because in our community, the people that you're seeing and why it looks like a mess to you is because these are people who never learned properly from somebody, from anyone.
So what's the point of going to the what's the point of going to masjids and getting the, I guess, when you have their, do y'all have like not Bible studies, but when you speak of the Qur'an, like, do you
we have teachers, we have classes. But here's the thing.
Is everybody teaching the same thing, or you only
No, I'll be honest.
That's how they interpret
They're
it?
teaching their interpretation.
Isn't that a problem?
Yeah, it's a big problem. It's a big
So how
problem.
do you get your community on the same page where you're not looked at as a big mess?
The only way to get it is you have to teach people how to respect scholarship.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
So here's what happens in our community. You can have a masjid, right? And in your masjid, the imam could be teaching properly or improperly or whatever the case may be. And then, let's say he pissed people off. Because it happens, right? Or, you know, he pissed some people off, they get mad, and they say, I'm going to leave, I'm going to go start my own masjid. So they start their own masjid, and now they teaching whatever they teaching, how they want to teach it. And then some people there get pissed off, and they leave, and they start their own masjid.
Why? It's because they don't believe in the same thing as they're saying?
No, it usually comes down to, well, maybe that, maybe you might have a religious difference, or you might have an issue with personalities clashing. You know what I mean? Just personal stuff. But what happens, like me, right now, if I wanted to go start a masjid, I could go start a masjid. It's the same thing with in the church. Like, I've seen when I was Christian, even today, I see people, the deacon gets mad at the pastor for passing him over. He want to be the main one preaching. He go start his own church. He start his own church, and then he get to customize all the word the way he want to customize it. Okay. He teaching the style that, you know, that he like to teach in.
Right.
It's the same thing in the same. So what ends up happening, if around here in our communities, not just in this area, but in our communities, a lot of the people don't know who's a real scholar and who isn't. And that some people think we don't have any. Right. And what they do, they defer to scholars who are in other countries. But in America, we do have black scholars and black, not just black, but American scholars all over our country who are qualified to teach Islam. The problem is, if people don't want to follow them, they do whatever they want. So it's the same way in Christianity. You can find races who can find proofs for their stuff in the Bible. You can find gay people, gay pastors who find proofs for their stuff in the Bible. You can find, Hebrew Israelites who read from it. Like, they just want to customize it the way they want. I'm not saying that you can do that with the Qur'an, because you can't. But what happens, the rules of the religion, people will decide, I'm going to follow this or I'm not going to follow that. It's the same, like what you were saying about the woman who was downstairs talking like that. that's a good, example, because you got a lot of women who their interpretation of what some of these verses mean, they say, oh, y'all say it means that, but I don't think it means that. It means this. Now, they could be dead wrong, but here's the thing. If we live in a country where you could tell somebody they dead wrong and they going to be like, well, it's okay for me in my house. Understand?
Right.
Like, there's a few places in this country where they have, like, homosexual masters. You know what I mean?
Homosexual what?
Masters, like imams
Right.
who are homosexual, and here's the thing, not that we got an issue with gay people, because, we don't accept that in Islam. We don't even want to kill them or nothing like that, but that's not acceptable in Islam. But what happens, you had a group of people who went off and said, well, we want to do this our way. And they're going around and they're getting people to come to their masters.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
and the same way, I'm sure in the church, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So, from our point, like, it might look like a mess, but our mess ain't really no different than the messes in Christianity or the,
Right.
you know what I mean? But what's interesting, what I always respect about Jehovah's Witnesses, because y'all do have a hierarchy, it probably does look like more of a mess because y'all have actual structure.
Right, a chain.
Yeah, see, when I was Christian, like, my family was Baptist and Methodist. We didn't have all that same structure. Maybe just in our particular church, but not for the whole, world of Baptist and Methodist people. But I went to Catholic school. So even when I was Christian, I was a Baptist, but my parents sent me to Catholic school. So I saw the difference there too, because there's a big structure in there. There's a whole lot of structure in Catholicism, which you don't have in any of the other Christian sects.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So what about, like, another thing I seen on Facebook, I think it was like yesterday, and it was talking about how, Muslims don't celebrate holidays, should I say.
Mm-hmm.
Main one was Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot where I was reading this dialogue, and they were saying how their child, like, they never had Christmas as a Muslim, and they wanted to give that to their child. So
Mm-hmm.
one year they finally did, and they were like the just to see their faces all light up and actually be excited that they were able to celebrate it.
Mm-hmm.
They said that they would do it again. They was like, but you don't judge me. It's just, I guess, what they would do for their kids, I guess, because they feel like they're kind of like depriving them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the same thing with Jehovah Witnesses. The only thing that saved us was my dad, because he wasn't Jehovah Witness,
Mm-hmm.
and because you have to respect your mate. If it wasn't for my dad, and my dad if he was Jehovah Witness, we would have never got that neither.
Mm-hmm.
So is that the same way, like, Muslims just saying, like, say my husband was Muslim, but I'm not. So am I supposed to just stop and not do nothing because of him? Because what about my religion?
Well,
Does that, like, how do you feel? Like, that's like them saying,
I don't know.
oh, my religion, I take mine more serious, or whatever the case may be. This is just what it is.
I really don't know. I think that, like, if you get married to somebody who's not the same religion as you, then I guess you'd have to decide if you want to have children with that person or not. Because I can see where that would be a mess if I believe in one thing, you believe in another thing. And that's okay, because I can respect another person's beliefs.
Right.
But if you don't want to do that for our children, then that would be an issue. Like, that was an issue with me when I had my kids. And it wasn't an issue in the beginning, but it was an issue after me and her broke up.
Right.
Because she was, resentful. Then it was like, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to celebrate Christmas. My parents used to say, oh, well, you're depriving your kids of Christmas. I didn't ever feel like I was depriving them of anything. I felt like I was just teaching them the truth.
Well, I feel like
You
I was
see what I'm saying?
deprived, and when I finally had my kids, I felt like I was acting out like a kid. Like, Christmas came, I'm walking around with, I'm walking around with, like, Santa Claus, what is it, like, aprons on and stuff, and trick or treat. I'm out buying costumes, because it was like, I felt like that was taken from me.
Okay,
And I know what what it represents and stuff, but I just feel like a piece of my childhood was taken away from me, and that made me act out as an adult. To now, like, I was all into that stuff because it was taken away. Well, is that the same thing? you know, how the kids, like, how do you know how that's best for kids?
Well, I mean, it all depends on what you value as a person, as an adult.
Right.
Like, so for me, when like I grew up having those things, right? I grew up having Christmas and Halloween and all those things. But when I got older, I started studying Islam in the 6th grade in Catholic school. That's when I got introduced to it by my teacher in Catholic school. I didn't become Muslim until after I graduated high school. But I felt like once I became Muslim and I started learning this stuff, I felt like my parents lied to me. That's how I felt as a kid. Like, yo, y'all lied to me. Right. So even though I enjoyed Christmas and all that, I don't feel like I took that from my children because we have other holidays. You see what I'm saying? Like, so, like, on the Eid, like, my kids grew up maybe not. I mean, they did have Christmas because their mom and my grandmother gave them gifts and stuff, and I didn't have no problem with that. I didn't do that. But we have 2 Eids every year, which is like our celebration after Ramadan and after Eid al-Adha. And both the Eids, every year my kids got mad gifts. They got mad gifts. They got presents. We made a big celebration out of it. There was food and cake. We did all those things. So I don't feel like I deprived them. But my thing is this. Like, for my children, I want them to value truth and, you know, uprightness over just the celebration. Right. You see what I'm saying? So from your point of view, maybe, you know, because I didn't grow up like that. Like, I mean, I grew up, but the religion wasn't forced on me. Right. But I could see if you felt like it was forced on you, and all your friends were able to do all this other stuff, and y'all weren't allowed to do anything, you may feel like that. But if you're in a Muslim household and your parents don't do anything for you, then I'm sure they will feel that way. But I know when my kids, we did stuff like that. I did all that stuff for them, you know. And I celebrate birthdays, so it's not. Now, some Muslims don't do birthdays. I celebrate birthdays. I celebrate. I'm not gonna say I celebrate Christmas, but I'm not one of them parents that's like, yo, don't get my kids no Christmas gifts. Right. I'm not like that. I'm not even like, if I worked at a job and they was having Pollyanna, I'm not, you know, no big deal. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm not putting a tree in my house, and I'm not, you know, I'm not really doing all. Definitely not doing Easter. Easter is like the worst of all. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I do Thanksgiving. Anything that's not related to any worship stuff, then I'll celebrate that. Okay. For 4th of July, Mother's Day. But there's a lot of Muslims who don't. They think that any celebrating anything outside of the 2 Eids is like impermissible, and that's their understanding of Islam. Right. I don't question that, but like for me, I don't have an issue with holidays. But we know that we're just not supposed to. There is no if, and, or buts about it. Like, it's just no. Yeah, Jehovah Witnesses. Y'all can't do nothing. You can't do nothing. And even younger, they were called, if you wasn't Jehovah Witness, you were called the worldly people. Yeah. They do the same thing with us. They do the same thing, okay. And well, some groups do, not everybody. You couldn't be like, if I was not me, my parents weren't like that, but I know other Jehovah Witness people I grew up with that if you wasn't Jehovah Witness, you wasn't allowed to spend the night neither. Yeah. So then it was like, because you was considered the worldly people. Yeah, let me tell you something, right? When we was growing up, the Jehovah Witnesses girls was always the nasties. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I ain't gonna be able to say it. It's the truth. They was the nasties. But I mean, I just feel like it wasn't really. It was I don't know how to say it. I guess depending on how strict the parent was on the religion of how bad they were. You know, because I remember a lot growing up or whatever with Jehovah's Witnesses. And the Jehovah's Witness beliefs, I ain't talking about the practices, but the beliefs are very, very similar to our beliefs. It's so more strict, but there's no. You talking about the practices? Right. I'm just talking about belief. But just belief, like not believing Jesus is God. Believe like our beliefs are similar, except for like the whole only Jehovah Witnesses are going to heaven and all that. We don't, we don't believe that, but you know. But there's even like we have literature, and that's how we stay up to date with this literature. And then we have someone who reads to us and gives us their interpretation. But that by the end of that meeting, everybody's on the same page.
Nobody's saying, oh, well, I thought it was like this. It's like we're trusting this person to lead us and to guide us.
Because you respect their scholarship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So at what point are you guys going to be like on the same page and say this is what needs to be done? Why isn't that being taught?
Well, that's going to eventually happen when Jesus comes back.
So right now we just want to run them up?
I mean, basically, I don't think it's right, but that's what was prophesized. That when Jesus comes back, you know, and the Mahdi comes and they kill the Antichrist, and there's going to be order back on the earth for a certain amount of time. So when that happens, there won't be no, I mean, not that there won't be, it shouldn't be no confusion after that, as far as the people who believe. But people are going to disbelieve after that point too, you know. So right now, the only thing you can do, you can talk to people, you can get them. It's not even about the actions. Like I don't like to talk actions because everybody do wrong stuff. You know what I'm saying? But just belief, like to get people to the correct belief, to believe that God exists and he's not human, he doesn't have human attributes, he didn't walk the earth, he doesn't do anything like a human. That's the most important thing to me. And teaching people who, you know, his prophets were, whether it's Jesus or the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or like teaching them correctly and then having them believe correctly. Everything else after that comes after that. You know what I mean? You can't control the person's actions, but you know, somebody's belief, you can give them the right tools so that way they can believe correctly and then they can make better choices for themselves.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now, I don't worry about all that other stuff because it's always like the whole, you know, the polygamy stuff. To me, and I don't just say that because I like women or nothing, it's just that's what people doing already. You know what I mean? Everybody got boyfriends and girlfriends and side joints and they doing all that shit anyway. So what's the big deal? Do it if you're going to do it the right way.
It's not right.
Well, I mean,
that's another thing is like knowing that, you know, you can have more than one wife. Who even okays that? Like who,
God.
So who do you talk to about that? Like, is it just you getting two chicks on the same page and say, okay, we gonna share them?
No. See, the reason for marriage, right? What's the reason for marriage for you?
It's commitment to one person.
Okay, so can you have commitment without being married?
Yeah.
So why get married?
Because something happened to him.
Something like what?
If he was the past, I had some kind of rights to something.
You want your rights.
I want my rights.
Okay. Also, you don't want to have children who are bastards, right?
Right.
Okay. So the difference between legal sex and fornication is marriage, right? Because that's a principle that was instilled in you when you were young. Whether you wanted it or not, that's something you held on to because you were taught correctly as a Jehovah's Witness. All right. So if a person has illegal relations with a person, then you consider that fornication, right? And that's a sin. That's what marriage is for. So now when you have that marriage, and now you have whatever relationship you have with your mate, yeah, there's commitment, there's love, all those things, but you can have all those things without marriage. You're looking to be free of sin.
Right.
And you don't want your children to be bastards that come from your situation. Back in the day, if you had children that were bastards, they couldn't inherit from you. So that's what you said. You said, well, I want to be straight with my family if my husband were to pass away. Exactly, because if you weren't married, traditionally you wouldn't be able to inherit from him, nor would your children.
Right.
Okay, so now take a situation where, let's say your husband had another woman that he was dealing with. He's dealing with this other woman, and then he has children by her. Now, just because you didn't like the fact he had that other woman, should his children suffer because you was mad about it? No.
Shame.
Huh?
It's a shame.
I mean, you might feel...
Somebody gotta suffer for it.
No, I mean, but here's my point. The thing is, God He knows, He made us. He knows the nature of men. He knows the nature of women. So, He knew He made us a certain way. I'm not saying it's wrong or right, or it ain't about feelings. It's just, at the end of the day, He made us a certain way. He knew men like women. He made it that way for a reason. He put more women on the earth than men for a reason. I don't know. I'm not telling you what it is. I'm not saying that you're supposed to like it. I really don't care if women like it or not. To be honest with you. But
because you just want to go into
no. I'm not. Listen. Rule of thumb. Hold on. Rule of thumb. Rule of thumb. No, listen.
I'm going to share.
Yeah, listen. Listen. You're going to make me deviate from a point, right?
Okay.
It's not about it being okay or not. You're talking about women who are content with the will of God. If your goal is to please God, then yeah, you're going to be more accepting of some things. Doesn't mean you like it. Doesn't mean you're okay with it. Doesn't mean you don't get aggravated or jealous. Don't mean you don't get mad. It just means, yo, like, I have a bigger goal and I'm looking at the bigger picture. Right. The bigger picture is for you to get into paradise, that you're going to do things that God commanded. Or you're going to be more, now you can sit there and shake your head, that's fine. That's okay.
I don't think that's right.
Listen, so then here's my point.
So it's like the man is happy.
It's not about the man being happy. Let me tell you talking to somebody that did it, right? I wasn't happy.
I'm just trying to see it in my head like
I wasn't happy. It's a mess. It's hard.
You know how you have like more than one child. So you tend to sometimes not be able to give every child that attention, right? Mm-hmm. So how are you able to give these women this attention when it's hard for mothers and fathers to give their children attention?
Listen, you missed the point.
No, I want to know.
I'm trying to tell you. The point isn't about, like, your husband's job isn't to make you happy.
Why?
It's not.
Talk about that at a later date.
Okay.
I feel like, so what? So what's his point? What's his purpose?
Listen, your husband's purpose, his role, his duty is to provide for you, to care for you, to love you, to provide for your children. Right? That's his job. To teach you correctly, to guide you. He's got way more bigger things to do than to just make you happy. Doesn't mean that he shouldn't make you happy. He should make you happy. The point I'm making is, right? Like if he was to make you happy, and then him making you happy was displeasing to God, would you want him to do that?
No.
Exactly. That's what, when I say he's supposed to guide you, he's supposed to guide you to Allah. You feel me? Mm-hmm. That's his job in Islam, right? Or in Jehovah Witness stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But what happens when y'all go and I don't mean y'all, just women in general, right? When they have that complaint, I don't blame them for having that complaint, for having that issue with jealousy, insecurity. That's okay. But you have to take that up with God, not with him. You feel me?
Right.
Because the rule, like I tell people all the time, there's a rule for us before we pray, right? We have to, like, purify ourselves. You have to wash your face, your hands, you wipe over your head and wash your feet. Mm-hmm. I hate washing my feet. I hate doing it. Mm-hmm. But I do it because it's a rule.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't like doing it. But do I get to say, yo, I ain't going to wash my feet? You know what I mean? Same way. If it was up to me, I'd have more than 4 women. What? Personally.
You said 4?
Like, the rule in Islam, you can't have more than 4 women. If it was up to me, I don't want no, like, I would have more than 1. Like, we would exceed that, because I like women.
And can you give them all babies?
Yeah. But my point is this. I don't want babies. I never grew up wanting babies, never wanted to be married. I mean, I'm happy, though, now.
You never wanted to be legally married?
No, I never wanted to be married at all. I never wanted to be, I didn't want kids, and I didn't want to have
But you're not supposed to do that. There is no dating in Islam, right?
It's not. But see, I didn't grow up Muslim. You know what I mean? I didn't grow up Muslim. I grew up, like, my dad was a bachelor.
So now
I wanted
you're
to be
deeper into Muslim.
Yeah, I'm a Muslim. So I follow the rules. To the best of my ability, I'll follow the rules.
But why do you say, like, right now, say if you met another young lady, like, you're able to entertain her, and...
My job ain't to entertain anybody.
No, so how do you get this second wife? Like, how do you get this second wife, this third wife?
The same way you get the first one.
Yeah, but they're all at different times. Right?
So?
How do you then go? That means you're entertaining somebody else looking for another wife. Why?
Listen, we mean why? Because you
Why?
can.
That.
The same way. Listen, the same.
So,
Oh my
what
God.
if it's because I have so many questions with this? Like, so
Go
what
ahead.
if it didn't turn into a wife situation? What if, she thought she can handle it, but she really couldn't? But you didn't. Did y'all have sex yet?
Thought who
Can
could
you
handle it?
So is that what your perception is? Are you allowed to have sex before marriage?
No, you're not. Doesn't mean people don't do it. You're not allowed to do it. It's a sin.
It is a sin.
It is a sin. That's why he said, marry. If you're gonna get another woman, you have to marry her. That's it. There ain't no girlfriends. Listen, I hate when people say, not that I hate, but when you say stuff like you just said, there's no dating in Islam, right? As you just said, right?
Right.
There's no dating in Christianity. There's no dating in Judaism. You got to get married. Right? Or wrong?
We could date, but the goal
You
is
can't
marriage.
date. You can't date. You can court. You can't have a girlfriend or a boyfriend who you're having relations with before
You're
marriage.
not right.
That's not supposed to.
Right.
You can't do it. It's
Right.
a sin.
Right.
Same sin for us. Because we believe in the same God. Follow the same scriptures. Same rules apply. It's just, being honest, Christians decided some rules they were going to take, some they didn't. In today's time, today's Christians. It's the same thing that some Muslims in today's times do too. They decide, some things we ain't going to follow, some things we are. But that don't mean it ain't wrong. The rule is still the rule. It's just like if you go on the expressway and the rule is 65, but everybody does 80. But if the cop pulls you over and you doing 70, you can't even get mad at him. Like, you was I was 5 over. Everybody goes 5 over.
Right.
So what? The sign says 65. If he wanted to give you a ticket, he could.
Is it common in this area for a lot of people to have more than one wife?
Not at all. That's why everybody got mad at me when I did it. It's not common. But what is common...
Is that why it raises a lot of questions? Is because
Yeah.
it's not something that...
It's not common because, one, most people can't stomach it.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't just talking about women, I'm talking about men.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And two...
Is that because of jealousy?
It's a lot that comes with it. But I know a lot of men my age and younger who just don't get married at all. They be like, I don't want to deal with the headache.
Right.
You know what I mean? And a lot of women, and already know how women get. So, but all of that comes from people's sincerity. All of us, including me, we all have a sincerity issue. Mm-hmm. All of us. But those aren't things that's going to get solved with just a bunch of rules. You know what I mean? Like usually those things, if we lived in an Islamic government, problems fixed right there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Which we should have one. That's the point. That's what I said. All of us are responsible for not having that. If we had Islamic government, then most of the issues we have, child support and baby moms and side job, all that stuff would go out the window because then people would have to get married.
Right.
The same way, like, you can't go outside speeding. You're going to get a ticket.
Right.
You're going to be more conscious of it. If we had, a third party who actually judged amongst us, you would see, not that you would not see any of it, you would see a lot less of it.
Right.
But we don't have it. But when you talking about rules and government, it ain't about your feelings, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's my only point when we talking about that marriage stuff. That's my only point. It's not whether or not you should do it. Most men shouldn't do it, even though you can do it. So I have friends of mine that got little kids. I tell them all the time, nah, don't get another wife, bro. You don't got the money. You don't got the money. You don't got the time.
Right.
Your kids need to be around you. But there's other dudes who might be older like me, and then, they don't got no kids, or they might got a bunch of girlfriends, and they're like, yo, man, you gonna just marry your joints, bro, make it legal.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it depends on the situation. Everything ain't for everybody, but the rule is there.